Hey Star Wars fans, welcome to the Toy Trooper episode number 8. My name is Gary, and this is a place to share information related to vintage Star Wars collecting. The topic of this episode is the Palitoy Death Star. Now, Palitoy was a company that partnered with Kenner to produce Star Wars toys in the UK. Now, when it came to a small item, such as an action figure, Palitoy was able to maintain the design standards that Kenner had established in the US. Now, when it came to a larger item, such as a vehicle or even a playset, due to the higher cost of plastics and plastic manufacturing in the UK, Palitoy had to make some changes. Now, for those of you who are familiar with the US Kenner Death Star Space Station playset, you know that is a huge playset with a lot of plastic parts. Now, for Palitoy to utilize that design with that amount of plastic, it just would not have been cost effective. So, what Palitoy did, they totally reimagined and redesigned the Death Star playset. And lucky for us, it came out great. Now, Palitoy used a heavy cardboard. Now, a lot of you are going to say cardboard, that's going to lessen the play value. Well, in this unique case, it actually works. Because Palitoy used this heavy cardboard, they were able to completely cover the surface of the Death Star in these really cool graphics and illustrations. They were able to create this really nice in-universe feel for kids to kind of play in. It just really has that vintage kind of Death Star feel when you're playing within this playset. This playset was actually made by a few other companies throughout the world. I believe Toll Toys made a version, Meccano, and even Kenner Canada. Now, those designs, they're all based on this Palitoy design. So, the Palitoy Death Star, it was not available in the US. So, the Palitoy Death Star is highly sought after amongst US vintage Star Wars collectors. It's just a really cool piece. Now, the debate continues. Which is cooler? The US Kenner Death Star Space Station or the Palitoy Death Star? I'll let you guys decide. I'm just excited and looking forward to sharing this playset with you. All right, let's take a look. Okay, there it is, the Palitoy Death Star. Now let's start out by taking a look at the box. Now, Palitoy incorporated many of the Kenner elements into their box art. You'll see the Star Wars logo with that double racetrack piping that races around the perimeter of the box. Just iconic. I love that. You see the Star Wars logo with that Hildebrandt art to the left there. And then, as an added bonus, featured on the box art, the vinyl Cape Jawa. Doesn't get much cooler than that. Now, these boxes, they're made of a very thin cardboard. Unfortunately, it was not made to withstand the weight of the heavy cardboard Death Star playset pieces. So these boxes are just notorious for being pancaked, flattened, torn, creased, you name it. To find one in good shape, it's just incredibly difficult. You'll see even on this one, it's got that typical creasing along the edge of the box where it was flattened at one time. Now, I've owned a few of these. And what I always do is I always try to look for a box that has a really nice front face for displayability. All right, now the playset itself, you'll see it has a nice kind of half sphere shape to it. It just looks great. Now, the turret, the gun turret on top here, this is where most of the plastic parts are located on this playset. Now those laser cannons, Those are the same ones that are featured on the X-Wing vehicle. Palitoy just kind of recycled that design element for this play set. You'll see the canopy there that covers the gunner seat. Now, these canopies, they tend to always have some tint of yellow to them. I believe that's the same plastic that was used on card back bubbles. It's very brittle. It cracks easy. Now, if you ever come across one of these canopies that's crystal clear, I would be highly suspect that it's a reproduction. I have yet to see one that did not have some degree of yellowing to it. Now, under the canopy, you'll see that's where the gunner would sit. Now, even though this is a simple design, it still has some nice play value to it. The fact that it sits atop of the Death Star like that, and even though it's manual, it does rotate 360 degrees. So it has a really cool kind of defensive turret feel to it. It's got some nice play value. Now, the other plastic parts that are featured here, you have these plastic clips that actually secure the structure of the Death Star to the base. Now, the playset, there's 12 of these clips included with it. You only need 10 to build the Death Star, so you have a couple extra. That's cool. Now, you'll see multiple levels. It's just, the artwork is so cool. You'll see back there, there's a ladder that the action figures can ascend from the base up to the second level there. Now, you can see with the artwork, there's some stormtroopers running in there. Now, if you just kind of like travel through here, it really has a neat in-universe feel. It's like you're actually in the Death Star. I mean, this artwork it's just really unique. It's just such a cool environment for kids to play in. Just kind of travel through here. Just give you guys a look. It's kind of fun. All right. Now, one feature that the Palitoy Death Star has that I really, really like is it actually has a garbage chute. Unlike its US counterpart, which actually has more of a trap door feature that the figures kind of fall through into the trash compactor. But the Palitoy Death Star actually has a garbage chute. Okay. Now I'm going to turn this a little bit. Okay. Now you can see the garbage chute there. So the figures would fall through that chute and into the trash compactor. Now, there's no denying that the US Kenner playset came with the trash compactor monster. The Palitoy Death Star did not. Now, there is an illustration. You can see it right there. Monsters in there. One thing I do like about this trash compactor is the artwork again. It just really has a kind of claustrophobic feel. It feels dirty. I just really am a fan of the artwork. Now you can see here there's a lever with those arrows on it. Now it's a manual lever, but when you slide that lever, you'll see the trash compactor walls start closing in. And they move all the way flush, which I really like. That's unlike the US Kenner version. Now, the action figures have to make their escape. So you see the door right there. And when they make their escape, they make it right through this door. Now, that is a cardboard hinge. So you have to be very careful. There are many Palitoy Death Stars out there where that hinge has torn and the doors are just loose. Okay, you can see up here there's like an observation bridge. Now that observation bridge turn it here. That observation bridge or catwalk overlooks the main docking bay. Now this area of the playset is huge. You could actually land a TIE fighter vehicle right there. It would just look great. I really like the artwork here. You can see that forced perspective of those stormtroopers down there. Got multiple doors. Stormtroopers rushing in. Now, one thing I will point out while we're down here, you can see this door to the center column. You can see in there, on each side of that kind of catwalk, there's some mirror tape. Now, when you look at it from above, which I'll show you here, in a minute, you'll see that that mirror tape gives the illusion of the center column. It just goes on forever, kind of an infinity. Okay. Let's turn it some more. Now over here, you can see that observation catwalk, a couple of stormtroopers there. Now one thing I do like about the illustration also is that all the characters, they are based more closely to the action figures. You'll see it again down here when we go to this kind of command center. You can see the Death Squad commanders in there. It's just a really cool area. You can see the dogfight, that X-Wing with Darth Vader's TIE fighter there on the view screen. But all these illustrations of the figures, because they're more closely resembling the action figures, when the kids begin putting their action figures into this play set, they just blend right in. And it just looks really, really cool. All right, turn this some more. Now, I'll show you, if you remove this turret, you can see that feature I was talking about, that kind of mirror tape. Hopefully you can see it in there. And then one last thing I really want to show you that's kind of a nice added kind of illustration. If you look at the base, see if I can tilt it up here. You'll see you have the Star Wars logo underneath. You have the dogfight there, X-Wing versus Vader's advanced TIE fighter. And you have the first 12 action figures, including the vinyl cape Jawa. All right. So there you go. It's a pretty good overview of the Palitoy Death Star. Hopefully the information that I shared with you helps you guys make a more well-informed decision if you decide to collect a Palitoy Death Star. Okay, that does it for this episode of The Toy Trooper. Thanks everybody for watching.